What?
You're not supposed to cut ribs before you smoke them.
I'm doing something different this time. Just my wife telling me what to do again. Why don't you guys come in here and I'm gonna show you exactly what we're doing with these baby back ribs. Yeah, just another classic example of somebody telling you the best way to cook. The reality is a lot of the things that you see here on YouTube are a bunch of people who don't know anything. And sometimes I feel like I'm one of them. I will tell you, a few years ago I had this idea, but I was too busy trying to follow the trends and doing what everybody else was on YouTube, and that was the 3-2-1 method for ribs. I'm gonna be honest with you, competition style barbecue is great for what it is, but if you're here like me on a beautiful weekend, making some great barbecue for your family and friends, it's not a competition. It's about that togetherness. It's about that good food. So today, we're taking 2 racks of baby back ribs and we're gonna be doing them party rib style. I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it. Now for party ribs, you're gonna want some baby back ribs. I decided to go 2 racks of ribs today, and I'm gonna be honest with you, baby backs tend to be my favorite, and it's not technically because of flavor, but I don't really like all that cartilage and stuff that you can sometimes find in spare ribs. I like to get nice clean bites with my baby backs. So this recipe is gonna go great. Now maybe you can try this with spare ribs, but this one specifically is for baby back ribs. So I got myself 2 racks from Sam's Club. First thing I'm gonna do is pat dry them because they're a little slimy, a little wet with all that purge and the stuff from the packaging. Just gonna dry them up a little bit. Another thing you're gonna hear on YouTube all the time is this argument of membrane or no membrane. Should you take it off or should you not? And I'm gonna tell you right now that when you're at home making 2 racks of ribs, remove the membrane every single time. A lot of these people that get on here and start telling you don't take it off, this famous restaurant doesn't take it off. Well, imagine, if you're a restaurant and you are making 500 racks of ribs in a day, how much time does it take to remove 500 membranes when the change in quality is just a marginal difference? You're probably not gonna do it. You're gonna score it and throw it on the smoker. When you're at home and you're making 2 racks and you can take the extra 30 seconds to a minute to do it yourself, just do it. It's worth it, even if it is just a small difference in quality. What you do, get yourself a butter knife. Get yourself along the back of the bone and just try and ride the back of the bone just enough to pull it up a little bit. You don't even have to go all the way across, but just pry a little bit. Don't tear the membrane. I'm using gloves here. You can use a paper towel. You can do whatever you want. Just wiggle your fingers all the way across and then just pull like this. One swoop and the whole membrane is off. And most ribs, you're gonna want to apply a binder. A lot of times you're gonna hear yellow mustard, and honestly, when it comes to binder, you can use whatever you want. For myself, because I like texture, I find that I get the best texture by using a little oil. So I'm either gonna use avocado oil or olive oil on most of my ribs. Now, I don't need a lot. I just need enough to make my palm and my fingers glistening, and I'm going to rub just a little bit of oil on the ribs. All we're looking for is a little tack. That's all about getting the ribs tacky for the rub. It's the entire purpose of a binder. Now, on a brisket, it does help with creating bark. These aren't gonna be on the smoker long enough to really create a bark, but we're gonna get a nice finish on them because of the oil. Now, when it comes to seasoning your ribs, pick your favorite rib rub. I'm not gonna tell you which one is best, but I'll tell you which one I'm using today, and that is the Bearded Butcher's Hollywood blend. The thing that I like about this is it's a blend of a lot of different flavors. I get a little savory, and I get a little tiny bit of heat, and I get some sweet. Now, usually I start by seasoning the backside of the ribs first, but I'm gonna show you why I'm doing the top. I'm gonna put a nice generous coat. This isn't entirely salty or overly salty, so I can be generous with the amount of seasoning that I use today. And I pat that rub in and help that stick to that binder and stick to the surface of these ribs. Now I'm gonna flip these over and I'm gonna season the backside. Now, the one thing with ribs or any meat that you're seasoning, the one thing that you don't wanna do is overhandle it. And that's why I started by seasoning the top side of the ribs. Because these are party ribs, these are going to be cooked as individual ribs. It's gonna be faster, you're gonna get a better finish on all sides, and they're gonna be incredibly tender and delicious and honestly easier and perfect for a party. That's why they call them party ribs. Now, when it comes to cutting ribs, Baby back ribs, the bones kind of go any direction that they want, kind of like my hair when I wake up. What is important is that you look at the bone. Because we're looking from the backside, we can physically see which way the bone is running. So what does that mean? That means I can get in here with my knife and get a nice clean cut in between the bones, just like so. By doing so, we're not gonna be whacking the bone with our knives. We can get some good cut on these ribs. Now I know we've got 2 racks, but there's no sense in me showing you exactly how to do this with 2 racks. We're just gonna focus on the 1 rack and I'll do the other one off camera. Now that I've got them all cut into individual ribs, I got them turned up on their sides because I got this nice clean slate. Gonna get in there with that rub. We're gonna get it nice and coated, just like that. Bearded Butcher's Hollywood blend. There will be a link down in the description for everything you see in today's video in case you wanna make them exactly like I do. Now flip them over. Just like so, another clean slate, and I'm back at it with that Bearded Butcher's Hollywood blend. Pat it in with the backside of my glove one last time. And when you're in here, if you see any areas that may need a little extra, go ahead and add it now. The last item that you're gonna need for today's cook, and honestly, if you're doing barbecue of any kind, it is such a clutch thing to have. It's a wire rack. When you're doing things like this, when you've got all these individual pieces, there's nothing easier for transport and cooking than a wire rack. So that's what we're gonna be using today. Be laying these suckers out there just like so, leaving just enough space in between them so that the smoke and the air can flow through there. You've got 1 rack all seasoned up. I'm gonna get these out of the way. I'm gonna get this other rack prepped just like this, and I'll meet you at the smoker. We're over here at the Lone Star Grillz pellet grill. I got this about a 60-40 blend of 60% hickory pellets and 40% oak wood chips that I got from Lone Star Grillz. That just adds a little bit more smoke than you would typically get with the pellet grill. Even though this thing smokes like a champ, those chips definitely do help. Now we got this thing running at 275 degrees today because these party ribs are meant to be done with ease and in a good amount of time. Now, I've got 2 full racks of ribs. I've got 2 wire racks that we're gonna be using. I wanna put these suckers up on the top. So what I'm gonna do is the meatier ribs are gonna go a little bit closer to the heat source, just like so. And the thinner ribs themselves are gonna go further from the heat source. And we're gonna get them up there on the top rack, just like so, and we're gonna let these smoke. We're talking about 2 hours bathing in the smoke at 275 degrees. At that halfway point, at that 1 hour mark, we're gonna come in, we're gonna flip those ribs. Honestly, that's all we have to do for the time being. So for the next 2 hours, you can kind of plan your day around it. You can work on some side dishes or whatever else you're doing for your party. We'll see you in an hour when it is time to flip these baby back ribs. All right, we're an hour into these party ribs. One of the nice things about these is how simple they are and how little work it actually is to get these done. It's been an hour in the smoker. We've literally done nothing. But what we need to do now is flip them over. They're still tight. They still need more smoke. They still need more heat and time. So we're just gonna go in and flip all of these over. Now careful, these racks are gonna be hot and there's probably gonna be some hot grease or fat that's breaking down, but no problem. Just get in here quick, get them flipped over. Now we've got those ribs flipped over. It's gonna be another hour in the smoke. Grab yourself a beer, take yourself a nap, whatever it is, just set a timer for an hour. We'll see you then. We are at that 2 hour mark and man, do these ribs look and smell incredible. They've got some amazing color. You just take a look at that. That deep mahogany color, getting a little bit of char on there. You can see the texture from that rub. Nice and shiny from that fat breaking down. Get that nice golden color you can see down in there in that fat. Let's get these over to the prep table. We've got that put your money where your mouth is step right over here. Let's do it. What we're gonna do here in this next step, what I call the put your money where your mouth is step, is we're gonna get these ribs into this foil pan, and I hope that this here is big enough for all of the ribs. You might need to, depending on the size of the ribs or how many you do, split them up between multiple pans. Honestly, I'm right on the verge of where I should probably use another pan, but looking at it here, I feel like I'm doing okay. The next step is we're creating a glaze. Now you can use your favorite barbecue sauce. We're gonna kind of make our own here today to some extent. So what we're gonna do today is I've got this brown sugar and spice glaze. It's a ham glaze from Boar's Head. I'm going to be using that and use the whole jar for these 2 racks of ribs. And I'm gonna just scoop some dollops of that, throw it all over in here. And it's pretty thick stuff. So it's too thick to use, you know, on its own as a sauce. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna thin it down with some butter. Now, as that starts to warm up, it will thin down, but we're gonna take 3 of these mini sticks of butter, so it's equivalent to a stick and a half of butter. The combination of this butter along with that Boar's Head glaze is going to make for a nice overall sauce or glaze finish on these ribs. Because these will be back into the smoker, we're basically braising them in their own juice, in this Boar's Head and this butter. We'll be braising them for the next 45 minutes. And I don't honestly think we're gonna need the whole stick and a half of butter. I'm just gonna add a little bit more from this one here. So about a stick and a quarter. Can't forget that money shot. What is that? Some good local honey. We're gonna drizzle that over the top, just like so. Covered up with some heavy duty wide Reynolds wrap. Gonna be back in the smoker for 45 minutes. Now the one thing with this, because I have so many, it might not be a bad idea after about 30 minutes or so to kind of toss those ribs inside, because the bottom ribs are gonna be in that juice. We want all of them to be exposed to that. That's why this foil pan full might be on the brink of too many, but I didn't have enough to where I felt I truly needed to split it between 2 pans. So I'm kind of on the middle, stuck it with one. We'll toss them in about 30 minutes or so. 2 hours and 45 minutes have gone by. It is time to get these out and do the last step. That last step consists of putting these ribs back onto the smoker for just a few minutes, onto that wire rack. We want to baste them with the juices that these have been sitting in. Now these are going to be hot as hell, and I can tell you they are super tender. They're gonna be hot as hell though. I've got a glove liner and one of my rubber gloves on, and I'm going to stack these pretty tight because we know we had issues getting them all to fit earlier, but I think getting them close enough, we'll be able to do it. Now get in there and give that glaze a good stir. Got myself my silicone brush here. And I'm just gonna get in here and I wanna brush some of this goodness back onto the ribs. It's okay that the glaze itself is a little runny. These sugars in them the sugars in there will help break down. It'll tighten up, thicken up on these ribs, and it'll make a great finish product. We're gonna go about 3 minutes like this, get the lid shut, let that glaze set up. We gave it 3 minutes on that side. We're gonna pull this out a little bit, and we need to flip each one of these ribs over, and we need to glaze this side for another 2 to 3 minutes, and then they're done. Now the thing that I like the most about these is look how perfect the finish is, look how perfect that glaze looks. A person at a party could reach into that pan, grab a rib, and be completely happy end to end, bite to bite with these. Not saying that other ribs aren't as good, but the final product on these appears to be incredible. I've never made them like this before, so I've honestly never tried them. We're looking to see today for the first time how good they truly are. So we're gonna get some glaze on this side. 3 minutes and they're done. In good old party fashion, these ribs are done, and the best thing that we could do is reuse this pan that has the rest of that glaze in it, and we're gonna start just chucking these ribs down into it. Now, I don't know about you, but those are some delicious looking ribs. Let's get these over to the table, let them cool for a minute. We're gonna give them a try. Imagine showing up to a party and seeing a dish of ribs that look like this. I can tell you what, I would be excited. But you know what I'm more excited for? Trying one of them. Now look at that. Dark mahogany color, glazed up to perfection. We did these in 2 hours and about 55 minutes total, including the about 6-7 minutes that we did to glaze and let these set up on the smoker. That was 2 hours in the smoke, 45 minutes in the pan with the boar's head and the butter. And it is time to see how well these party ribs turned out. Now that right there is a perfect bite. If I'm cooking ribs for a crowd, I'm not doing it any other way. They're perfect. Every bite is exactly the same, covered with the seasoning, covered with the glaze. That boar's head is delicious. You don't taste as much of the mustard as you do before you put it on, but it is absolutely delicious. As you can see, they are super tender. Every bite is great. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I would want to make ribs any other way. I'm a big fan of baby back. I told you that at the beginning. I prefer them over spare ribs for my own personal reasons. And these right here are banging. Whether they're party ribs or they're just Wednesday night ribs, whatever they are, I'm sold. I will be doing more party ribs in the future, and so should you. If you're looking for more banging and delicious barbecue videos and you're not looking for competition, you're looking for somebody who cooks in his backyard, cooks for his family and friends, then I suggest you subscribe to the channel, and I would suggest that you also check out this video right here.